Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books, and today I have a haul for you all. I finally had a majority of my books come in, and I want to put them up in my shelves, so this haul was necessary. So I do still have a couple more books coming in the mail, some pre-orders and things like that, that'll just have to wait for a different haul. So because these need to go be put away. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction books that I've been ordering recently. The first one here is called The Dominici Affair, Murder and Mystery in Provence by Martin Kitchen. I teach a course on the history of violence, and I've been wanting to do something with like serial killers and their meaning in history. So this will be kind of an addition to the material for that course, I hope. Another French history book is The Making of Grand Paris, Metropolitan Urbanism in the 21st Century by Theresa Enright. This book just won one of the big history awards, or French history awards, so I'm glad I purchased it before because I got it at like a good deal. I think it was like $10 when I purchased it, and now because of the award it's gone up, but I'm glad it's in my hands now. Next up is Before Trans, 3 Gender Stories from 19th Century France by Rachel Mesch. I actually saw that Adriana Herrera was reading this book, and at the same time this book was starting to be promoted in the listserv for French historians, and I saw that the author was doing a talk. So I was able to attend the talk via Zoom and really enjoyed some of the themes that the author was talking about, and I really can't wait to get to this one. I will be getting to this one fairly soon too, so you can follow me in the social medias if you'd like to see me read as I read that one. The next one, I have to thank Cousin over at Always Doing For. She talked about this in one of her most anticipated kind of upcoming books videos. This is the Turnaway Study, 10 Years, 1,000 Women and the Consequences of Having or Being Denied an Abortion by Diana Green Foster. So this was a study of people who, like the title says, either got an abortion or were denied one, and seeing the consequences of it. So this is one of these really interesting and long-term studies, which is fairly rare. So I will be incorporating this into my material on the history of abortion. A couple more nonfiction books. This one is by Franz Fanon. It is Black Skins, White Masks, and I will be adding it to my series of reading the French classics. The title kind of tells you what that is about. I'm also going to be adding Assata, an autobiography. This one has an introduction by Angela Davis, and I've always been really interested in the story of Assata and why, she is currently in Cuba, fleeing American prosecution, unfair American prosecution. And I want to hear more of her story in her own words, so that is why I purchased this one. All right, now we can get to the fiction. I'll start with the hardcovers, and the first up is one of my most anticipated books that I can't believe I have not started reading yet. It is Sal and Gabi Fix the Universe by Carlos Hernandez. This is the sequel to Sal and Gabi Break the Universe, which was my favorite book that I read in 2019. If you don't know the story of Sal and Gabi, it's these two young kids. It's a middle grade book. Sal has the ability to like reach across universes, and Gabi is super intelligent, brave, awesome girl. They become friends, and they either break or fix the universe. I'm so excited for that one. Next up is Martha Wells's Network Effect. This is the most recent installment in the Murderbot series. I'll be honest, I'm not completely caught up, but I'm thinking that I'm just gonna at some point binge read the Murderbot series, and I knew I was going to eventually be buying this one, so I just went ahead and bought it from one of my local independent bookstores. And in fact, it is signed. That's why, this is one of the books I was waiting for. It just took forever to get here because what they had to do was ship all the books to the author, have her sign them, then ship them back to the bookstore, and then the bookstore would ship them out to readers. So it took forever. The next book I want to get to in the next month as well. This is The Undocumented Americans by Karla Cornejo Villavicencio. So I've heard really good things about this. It looks like this is a series of essays telling the stories of immigrants, and that each one's coming from a different perspective. That's as far as I understand it. As I haven't read it, I don't know exactly. And like I said, I've heard really good things about it, and that it tells a kind of shows you the diversity in the immigrant experience. There's not one immigrant experience. The next book I've been wanting for quite a while. This is The Magnolia Sword, Ballad of Mulan by Sherry Thomas. So it's a retelling of the story of Mulan, which, by the way, the Disney version is actually based on real documents from China. I've had my students read the actual primary source from the time, and so I'm really interested to see what the retelling does with it. The next one I bought because it's in this special edition, these Agatha Christie special editions. What is it's the HarperCollins publishers. I forgot what these editions are called, but they're hardcover releases with really beautiful designs, and this is one of my favorite Agatha Christie books, so I had to get it. There's no way around it. Another one that's been on my list for like a year is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is the retelling of the Iliad. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I teach the Iliad in one of my history courses, and one of the things we do in that course is we analyze retellings of them, and to kind of fit each retelling within the society in which it's written. And this is one that I won a recent part. What is it? Oh, it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2020, so I'm really eager to read that one. Recent release, one I placed an order from Loyalty Books, which is a Black-owned bookstore in DC, and this was one of the books that I got from them. This is Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn, and this is set in the Caribbean. Where in the Caribbean? Jamaica. And I've heard really good things for Caribathon and Read Caribbean. Quite a few people read this one. I've also heard Edie from Brown Girl Reading has a review on this book, and I really liked her review of it, so I've been wanting to get to it. That's a little sticker. Where does it have a sticker? Okay. Then the next book that I got was The Vanishing Half by Britt. Bennett. I did get this from Book of the Month, as you can clearly see, though I am not currently advocating for support for them. I had just signed up for Book of the Month when when I saw their reaction to Black bookstagrammers asking them about diversity within their team and the diversity within the books that they are chosen, and why they hadn't chosen more books by Black authors. Their response was not good enough, and so I just want to say that I'm not supporting them, but I had already placed the order for that book, and so I did want to support Britt Bennett. The next book is the Xenogenesis series by Octavia Butler. So I am joining the slow read along of Octavia Butler's work. This series is not on the list until much later, but I knew about this bound edition that has the entire series. Yes, I found thanks to Priscilla at Bookie Charm, and I think this edition is gorgeous, and I found a used copy. This is a used copy, but the seller didn't lie to me. It's in really, really good condition, no writing on it, and it doesn't look like it has ever actually been read. So I'm excited to get to this with everybody who is joining the slow read along. The next book is getting harder and harder to find because I ordered it from my local independent bookstore once again, and it was back ordered, so it took them a while to get this to me. But this is The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. I first heard Mara at Books Like Whoa talk about this book, and it sounds like it is a very multi-layered, complex story, and it sounded totally up my alley. It involves themes of like theology and religion, and that was the main thing that attracted me to it. So we'll see. The next book is a fantasy story. It is The Book of the Unnamed Midwife by Meg Ellison. Yes. What is it? In the wake of a fever that decimated the Earth's population, killing women and children and making childbirth deadly for the mother and infant, the midwife must pick her way through the bones of the world she once knew to find her place in this dangerous new one. That's all I need to know. I love books that deal with the themes of like pronatalism, abortion, contraception, all of that. Those are the topics that my dissertation is on. So I'm always interested when fiction covers these themes. Okay, the next two books I also ordered from Loyalty Books, and the first is The Preacher's Promise by Piper Hughley. This was recommended by Adriana Herrera, and I trust her romance novel recommend. This looks like it's a historical romance set in the American prairie. So let me take a quick look, and it involves kind of a preacher. I know the main character is a preacher, and a woman who is fleeing something, and it's a school teacher. And because Herrera recommended this, I kind of have high hopes for it. The next one, I was really intrigued. This is a cozy mystery written by a Black author, and that's all. That was one of the main things I was looking for when I was looking for Black authors to support. I want to read more stories by Black authors in all kinds of genres, right? So hence the historical romance, the cozy mystery. The other thing that I'm really looking for is long-running paranormal series by authors of color. Especially if they're written by Black or Latinx authors. So if anybody has any recommendations, please leave them down below. All right, a few more books. The next one is Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. I have the first in the series. It's Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors. This one is following a different member of the same family from the first book, but it's more of a persuasion retelling, I believe. I think that's what it is. I think she's going to be like retelling Jane Austen in this series, and it sounds really good, and I really want to support Sonali Dev. Next is another romance novel. This is Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. I first heard them talk about promoting this book on the Social Distancing Book Fest, and this is a queer romance novel set in contemporary Hollywood where these two women, it looks like, are going to be caught like in a picture that makes them look like they're a couple, except they're not really a couple, except maybe they should be a couple. I really like the premise of it, so I had to buy it. All right, a few more books here. The next one I heard Shannon over at That's So Po talk about. It is Death by Dumpling by Vivian Chien. So another one of these like cozy mysteries written by an author of color, and it sounded really interesting. Cozy mysteries are so tongue-in-cheek with their titles and covers, and I am someone who used to read a lot of cozy mysteries when I was younger. Lately, I've been picking up a few here and there, and they haven't quite hit the spot. So I'm hoping that by picking up books by authors of color, that I'll have better luck with the cozy mysteries. The next book is a book in Spanish. It is La Noche de Tlatelolco, The Night at Tlatelolco. It deals with the murder of people in the center of Mexico City in 1968. So the government just massacred a ton of people that were there. They were there. It wasn't even a protest. It was like a gathering, and they had speakers lined up. People brought their kids, and and like family members. It was not supposed to be a protest, but the government, because they were gearing up to host the Olympics. Mexico was gearing up to host the Olympics. Wanted everything in order and wanted to basically sanitize Mexico. At the same time, protesters had a lot of things to protest about in Mexico City, and in Mexico, and they weren't. And these were mostly young people who were not allowing themselves to be bought off or for their movement to be co-opted, and then they were killed and their bodies disappeared. So it is a period in history that I like teaching about in my world history class, and when I saw this book in Spanish on it, I wanted to read it. So this is by Elena Poniatowska. All right, next book is by Beverly Jenkins. It's Rebel. This is the first in the Women Who Dare series. I accidentally bought number 3 in the series or something. I don't know. I've been picking up Beverly Jenkins books out of order. And I finally sat down and was like, okay, let me get the first in some of these series so that I'm not going out of order. I mean, it's one of those things that there's nothing wrong with picking these books up out of order. Okay, most of these books can't stand alone, but knowing that they're part of a series makes me want to read them in order. So I'm picking them up. The last 2 books are these vintage editions of Agatha Christie books. These were published in the original covers, and I like them a lot. So I decided that I was going to order my 2 favorite books because I picked up other Agatha Christie books in this edition, and I realized I didn't have 2 of my favorite ones in this edition. So I have the ABC Murders, and then there were none. Yes, I now have 2 or 3 copies of each of these, but because they're my favorite Agatha Christie books, and I'm mainly picking these up as to collect, I feel justified. So that is it. Now I can put them all away. If you are interested in any of these books or have read them, please let me know. I always count on you all giving me your feedback on the books that you have read to decide when I'm going to read them or not. So if you could please let me know which of these you read and what you have thought, I would really appreciate it. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.